G'day, Warbanders, and today I want to talk about uh, Paradox's sort of admittance that Victoria 3 was a failure, and their admittance that they are selling early access games. Now, I've found this article. I'm a bit late to the party, but it's really interesting because this journalist, he had an interview with the deputy CEO, and he basically admitted to a lot of things that the fan base of Paradox criticizes Paradox for. And I just want to pull out some quotations that I just found very interesting from this article. Now, I'm not a big fan of these journalist sites because they are part of the problem. They do shill games. They do take money from game companies to make these bogus reviews, but sometimes they do release these articles that have some interviews that have some interesting tidbits that I want to discuss today. And the first thing I want to discuss is sort of the notion of fixing the game with DLC. So where it states pretty much every Paradox game I know of has a group of players who accuse the company of releasing games. So this is the journalist speaking. That must be fixed with paid DLC, and this is especially true of the sequels. So he's basically saying they fixed the CK3, Victoria 3 with DLC, and he's partly not wrong with that. Okay, Paradox have been starting to move away from that model, but they still have these needed DLCs, for example, like EU4, where you need some DLCs. But I have noticed they have got rid of some of those DLCs that are essential. Like I think it's Art of War they packaged into one. Not sure about that because I don't play EU4 anymore, but very interesting. And I feel like it still applies to Paradox today, even though they are trying to address that. And it comes to this notion that the deputy CEO thinks it's like an unspoken agreement that fans, they pay for the DLC, and that's how they keep their business model. I've got to find it. That's the deal. So more intelligently, Lee Just, that's the deputy CEO, I don't know how to say that, suggested that Paradox developers have long had a kind of unspoken agreement with the dedicated players that they'll build their business around DLC without taking the piss. Now, as someone who really critiques Paradox a lot, I don't actually have a problem with their sort of current DLC model too much. I like the concept, but I don't like how it's practiced. Okay, because they sell DLCs that are not really worth your money. They sell them pre-packaged and in piecemeal, right? And they've gotten better with it, but they still are selling these outrageous DLCs. Like Voice of the People was one for Victoria 3. And Crusader Kings 2, while I love Crusader Kings 2, they do have a lot of DLCs in that game that are essential to playing the game, and they still haven't fixed that. I don't think they've combined them into one or had any hand in sort of fixing that. So I don't agree with the narrative that Paradox is fixing their DLC policy, because they are. Their older games still have those DLCs and they're not fixing them, so they're just kind of ripping people off. Again, I like Crusader Kings 2, but it has DLC galore, and that's where it sort of started. That's what people argue. It sort of started with Crusader Kings 2, and now we're in the situation where it's getting better, but not really. And just on the point of Crusader Kings 3, they did talk about that in the article. Okay. So Legit thinks that the deputy CEO thinks that expectations are high today, which is complete bogus. Like in terms of like the argument of them thinking, oh, the expectations are higher, we can't meet demand. It's the customer's fault. That's basically what he's suggesting here. And I think that's a false thing, because yes, standards are high, and if you're not going to provide that standard, I'm not going to buy your product. That's how capitalism works. If you don't provide me the good product, I'm not going to buy it. So they have to come with reality that you have to make a good product, otherwise people are going to get mad. And what else have we got? So if you look at Crusader Kings 3, it was a really solid game at launch, and now it has DLC. Again, I'm going to contest that, saying it's a really solid game at launch, because when I played it on launch, it was bare bones still, because it didn't have a lot of features that CK2 had. Still doesn't, by the way. No naval combat, like no like transport of naval vessels, right? Pay goals anywhere in the world. Secret societies. What else? Way more like republics that's still not in the game, which is really important. Because mainly when you're dealing with that period, you got republics and you got sort of kingdoms, right? So that's the two main government types that are within the medieval period usually, and they missed one of those ones, which is kind of, don't know why they haven't addressed it yet. But we did get Roads to Power, which I think was a decent DLC, but they still have things missing from CK2, and it's amazing how they haven't rectified that within 4 years. So it's kind of weird that he's calling it a solid game. And he says, oh, and some stay in the subscription model and some convert to deal. So he's talking about the new subscription model that I think they introduced to EU4. And I actually okay with this because it allows the new fans, new people to join the fray to like, oh, I like this game. I might drop some money in the DLC, or, you know. And I think it's okay, but like, you know, I'm not, again, for me, it's like a trial thing. If they try and push it on every game, I'm gonna get a bit annoyed. And if they like sort of raise their prices, go, oh, just go the subscription model, that's going to be a really bad thing, I think. So hopefully they don't go too heavily on that. But yeah. And again, he states that fans have higher expectations. So the deputy CEO thinks that expectations are high today with regard to how much goes into the base game. A continuation of sentiments from earlier in the video about how accepting players are that technical problems will be fixed after launch. I don't know why people normalize this thing in Paradox where, oh, it'll be fixed after launch. It's okay. The base game's gonna get fixed later on. Like, I just don't agree with that mindset. You should offer me, the customer, a full game. Okay, I don't mind you adding DLC, but you have to offer me a good base game that's not broken. Look at Victoria 3. Look at CK3. They just, while CK3 appeared to have a good launch, it still had problems. It still had balance issues, and those balance issues haven't been addressed for 4 years almost. Especially the concept of difficulty, which is basically non-existent in CK3. There's no challenge to the game. There's nothing that stops you. It's basically Sims 4, and they still haven't fixed that, and I don't think they will because they want to chase that imaginary new audience. Or maybe not imaginary, but you know, they're kicking out the veterans for new people. That's what happened in CK3. And the reason why CK3 has very positive reviews is because all the casuals are playing it, right? All the people who are first time fans, and it just makes the game, you know, not fun to me. Where they appeal to this majority that want easier games, easier gameplay, and I want to be overpowered, like that sort of mindset. And that's who they cater for, and that's why I think it's not really a solid game, because it's not really a game at the end of the day. Change this. It's a really solid Sims game or role play game. You know, like, don't say it's a game. And then the big topic I want to talk about is Victoria 3. So everyone who's saying that Victoria 3 is good now, well, the deputy CEO doesn't think so. Now you can say, oh, he only thinks that way. Like, he thinks it's bad because it's not financially performing, but it could be, he doesn't say. So who cares if it's for a nefarious reason? If the CEO, the deputy CEO, thinks it's bad, then I'm sorry, but I feel vindicated. So he says, when we fail, it looks something like Victoria 3. And then there's myself getting vindicated right there. I have a video about Victoria 3 just shit talking it because I just think it's a horrible game. I haven't played it for a long time because it's a shit game. It's a cookie clicker. And he goes on to say people wanted more warfare. It existed in the game, but it was bare bones. You could go to war, but maybe that was not the focus. So you had other things: diplomacy, economics, building your country, whatever. Yeah, economics. That's like so like cookie clicker like you're just building buildings and just waiting. You're just waiting for shit to happen. And don't get me started about the politics system where it's easy for sieges, it's ram chance if you get laws passed. It's so annoying. Very annoying gameplay. In Victoria 2, you didn't have to deal with this bullshit, right? It was you could work on your economy and you could work on the war, right? The war was sort of like the main mechanic in the game, one of the main mechanics in the game. In Victoria 3, it's like a sideshow. And while they've improved it, quote unquote, it's still shit. It's lipstick on a pig, right? And he says Paradox is still catching up with Victoria 3, which I don't think they'll ever catch up. Sorry, mate, but again, lipstick on a pig. It's not going to get fixed. The devs are committed to making warfare a sideshow in the Victorian period, which is completely false. And also, I hate this notion that war is a fantasy. People want more warfare because it was part of that fantasy. This is not a fantasy. This is history. History had warfare. Look at the 19th century conflicts. I'll look it up right now. Oh, geez, I'm getting annoyed. I don't like looking Wikipedia, but again, we go to 1836. Even there's like wars before, right? In the 19th century. Again, Victoria 3 doesn't begin in the 1820s. I wish it did. I actually wanted Victoria 3 to begin in the 1820s, but who cares? That would be actually a better start date, because look at these wars before 1836. And then we begin with the where is it? So many wars, guys. They're like, oh, there's no warfare in the Victorian period. Look at this shit, man. Like, jeez. Exon Revolution, Second Samnia War. So all these native wars, all these colonial wars, right? Siege of Herat, so Afghan-Persian War. War of the Confederation, so that's in South America. Revolts. Mormon Wars, fucking Mormon Wars. Pastry War. So the French intervention in Mexico. Egyptian-Ottoman War, 1839 to 1841. Cuban Campaign, First Anglo-Afghan War, First Opium War, so that was with the Chinese. And see, I can just keep going on and on. Okay, all these colonial wars, all these uprisings, revolts, saying there's no warfare in the Victorian period or there's little warfare. I just don't agree with this. Okay, I'll keep scrolling. Guys, the 19th century was a peaceful era. Like, the fuck? I just don't. And then you got the Crimean War, which is a big one. One of the first modern wars. Again, Victoria 3 does not model the change or modernization of warfare at all. Simple increases in stats. It just doesn't translate well. And everything has to be World War I fronts in 1836. I'm not kidding, guys. It's like they think that World War I front lines were a thing in 1836. It's horrible. So yeah, very annoying. And there's another point I want to raise, which is the concept of having these bigger DLCs. So it's very clear, he says, that people prefer bigger DLCs. That's what people like. The smaller content pieces are maybe nice to have, but it's the bigger pieces. I think he's right on this one, but the bigger pieces you're offering me are not worth it. So some of the CK3 DLCs, like what was it, the Court DLC, right? That was not useful to me. It was role-playing fluff that didn't matter. Roads to Power is the only gameplay orientated DLC that I actually liked. The other DLCs were just fluff. Same thing with Victoria 3. What's it called? The People, right? The Voice of the People. Kind of ironic. Where they don't listen to the voice of the people, right? It's kind of funny. Mostly negative. Crazy. Am I right, guys? And then he says he has less patience for the charge of fixing games with DLC. So let me find that. So the deputy CEO thinks that the argument for fixing games with DLC is bad. Again, they have started changing their model to be like more, you know, giving mechanics instead of like fixing, you know, bug fixes and stuff like that. And they have now, according to him, they have a decent track record for overhauling and adding to their games at no further cost. That's the negative way of looking at it. So he says no further cost, but that's not true. The DLC is a further cost. If people don't buy the DLC, you're not going to fix the game, Paradox, are you? You abandoned games like Empire of Sin, that Star Trek game. What's another one? I can't remember, but there's so many projects like City Skylines 2. Are they still working on that? I don't know. All these side projects they're working on, they just abandon straight away because they're not making money. Oh, and guys, the most important, more important than Paradox admitting the failure of Victoria 3 is the deputy CEO admits that their games are early access. Finally. So he suggested that Paradox developers have, yeah, blah, blah, we talked about that. I think I mentioned that before, but then he goes, but that's our sustainable business, and that's how we get these games that we live for. In the case of EU4, it's about 10 years now. It's now called early access, but we did that earlier, and we didn't call it that. We developed it as far as we thought we could make for a good game. As far as we thought we would make for a good game. And if we have fans that want it, they'll play it, and then we can continue to build on it. So they're basically admitting that their games they sell are early access experiences, but they don't label it as such. They still don't label it. They think they're fully complete games in concept, but practically they're early access games. And even the CEO admits it, which is kind of funny to me. So if you think they're early access games, why don't you give them a label? Why don't you label them on Steam? Oh, I know why, because they'll lead to a decrease in sales. So it's kind of weird that he's making this statement. I kind of like his, you know, what's the word? Bluntness, but, you know, actions speak louder than words, and please call your games early access games. If you're going to, you know, think they're going to be early access games, right? That people know. Yeah. And what else we got? And he thinks like, and basically this is like, if you don't buy it, we won't continue to build on it. So he basically admits that. So again, guys, there's another article or, you know, evidence that Paradox isn't good, right? We need to support competitors like Guild Destiny and other grand strategy games. You can't just keep supporting Paradox all the time. They're a horrible company sometimes. Of course, they sometimes make good products, but then, you know, you just cannot buy into the idea that Paradox is this great company that makes good grand strategy games, because they don't. They make these sort of half-assed games that try to make money, and you might go, War and Plays, every company's trying to make money, but yes, I believe that you can make money, but you can also make a good product. So if you make a good game, you can also make good money. But here they want to half-ass it. They want to make average games, but still make money. That's not how it works. And I'll hold people up to that standard all the time when I'm looking at my games, right? If you don't make a good game, I'm not going to buy it. It's simple as that. And the deputy CEO is a bit confused by this, because he feels like, you know, expectations have been raised, but they haven't. Well, they have, but they have been. But why is that a problem? Because if you don't deliver on a high experience, I'll just go to someone else. That's how capitalism works. So if you don't meet the standard, tough luck. I'll leave. But yeah, guys, that's my sort of rant about this sort of CEO. This interview. I know other people have covered this like before me, but I want to give my take on this situation. But I feel vindicated. So all the people gaslighting me of Victoria 3 is good, well, the CEO said it's bad. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts in the YouTube video. Do you agree with me? If you don't, that's fine. I always like open discussion. I don't care if you disagree with me. I do care in the sense of making arguments, but that's it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.